Everyone, welcome back to part 3 of working on our envelope journal. So this is the pattern that I have, and last time we were working on putting some of the papers, the decorative papers, in. I've gone ahead and cut these out off camera and inked them up to get them ready to go for today, but I did have somebody say they would like to see how I worked out doing this sheet of paper here for this. So I am going to grab a scrap. Here it is. Well, let me grab a different color one real quick. That's not quite big enough, is it? Hang on, let me pause you and I'll grab a different piece of paper. There we go. I sat it down and I couldn't find it. Okay, so this is the one I am going to use, but I will show you real quick how I figured out how to cut that out or trim it around so it would look nice. So I just took my sheet of paper that I had, I laid it down, and first I measured for the height up and down. So I just backed off just a little bit from the corner, and I'm going to mark it down here just a little bit off the corner. So I measured it for my height, and then now I've backed a little bit off. I'm not worrying about this part of the corner or flap yet. I'm going to go over here. Okay, so I'm going to measure from here over to here. So I'm backing off just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to run that through the trimmer. Come right back. Okay, so now I have a sheet of paper that fits just perfectly, just a little ways in all the way around. Don't know if you can see that very well. Now what I do next, and this, you know, there may not be a right or wrong way to doing this. I don't know, it's just the way I do it. But what I do is I lay my paper down just a little bit off the edge, and I put a little mark here, just a little line, okay? I don't know if you can see it on there. I just put a little teeny tiny mark right there. Okay, and that's just my guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip this inside the envelope, and I'm going to pull it out to that little mark. So it's resting against that mark I made. And then what I do is I just trace around the flap. Okay, so then when I pull that out though, I already know that I need to trim just on the inside of that line and on the inside of this line all the way down. So I need to be just a little bit smaller than that, so that way I get my little gap. Okay, and I may have to trim it down more after I do this. This is my starting spot. And I probably could have got out my bigger scissors so I could cut longer lengths at a time, but this will work. Okay, now then just put it down there and see how it fits. Okay, so I'm pretty close, and then now I see that all I really need to do is kind of trim that down just a little bit, and I mark it just a little bit with my pencil, and I know that's where I want to trim down at. Same down here on this one. I know that I just want to kind of trim this back just a hair right there like that, and that's all I do. Trim that off, glue it on, you're ready to go. Okay, so that's what I did with this one. So these are ready to glue in. Like I said, I've already cut them out, inked them, they're ready to go. I'm going to do that real quick off camera, gluing on, because you all know how to glue on things, and I'll come right back. Okay, have that all glued down, and I do want to put a pocket on this, and I'm probably going to do an triangle pocket, but I don't want to do that yet, just because I don't want to. I want to sew in my journal signature for this. So I've selected a few papers. I'll show you what I've picked. Since there's a lot of pink, I did find a piece of pink notebook paper that my daughter and I had dyed together. I've got some scrap cut-offs from some deli paper that I've used. I've got a couple of pieces of paper here from Stephanie at My Porch Prints that I'm going to include. So they're just journaling pages. I don't remember what kit they're from. Thought this one was pretty. Kind of goes with the brown undertones a little bit. Just add a little bit of color. And this one. And then I have some tea-dyed paper. Some grunged up paper I'm going to put. And then also this one from Stephanie of My Porch Prints. So what I'm going to do, and I think you all already know how to cut your papers for your signatures. So I'm just going to do it on this first piece of paper here. I'm folding it backwards so I can see better. And I'm just going to mark it for my height. And I'm going to mark it for my width. And then I'm going to trim it, and I'm going to cut all of these to fit the same or pretty close to that, and then I will come right back. Okay, I've got all my papers trimmed down. Now I want to put them in the order that I like them. This one I printed on cardstock, so I think I will have it be my signature cover. So I'm just going to fold that in half. Not all my papers are the same size here, and that's okay. Sorry about that, bumped the camera. And then I printed that on the inside of it. So just fold all these in half. And on the back of this scrapbooking paper that I had here, I went ahead and printed just some plain grungy paper from Stephanie at My Porch Prints, just so I wouldn't have the bright white on the back. Bright white's okay, I just don't have anything else in here that's bright white, so I kind of want it to match. Aren't these gorgeous papers? Absolutely gorgeous. Okay. And the pink, I can't remember. My daughter actually dyed these pink ones. I can't remember what she used. I don't think it was Kool-Aid. I don't even remember. And then this one was tea dyed, and then we just took other papers that were wet, like the notebook papers or ledger papers, and kind of put them over the top, and the ink or the dye kind of bled out on it. Gives it a little bit of pink, but not overwhelming. Okay, so I'm going to put all my plain papers together, and then I'm going to take these. I like to kind of divvy them out, you know. Put those between. And I'll put this one here. Okay. And then, oh, I know what I should have done. Let me take that one out. Put one of those brown ones in. So I've got one of those, one of the brown ones, one of these, and then a brown one. Okay. And then I don't really want this notebook paper as my middle of my signature, and the reason for that is because it's really thin. So I don't want the strain on my stitches right there. So I'm just going to pop that in here. And same thing with my deli paper. It's really thin, so I don't really want it in the center. So I'll just pop that in there. And then this will be our cover for our signature. My papers are not all the same size, and that's okay. That adds to the vintagey, junky look. Okay, and so that's where that's going to go. Now, the next thing I want to do on this one is I'm going to kind of reinforce this with a piece of sari that I have. That's piece of sari material been cut into a strip. So I'm just going to fray it out a little bit, just so it looks kind of vintagey or distressed. And it will fray out on its own anyway. Oops, I am so sorry. Keep taking you for a ride on the camera, bumping you. Okay, good enough, good enough, good enough. It'll fray on its own. Okay, I'm going to glue that down, just barely. I'm going to tack it down just a little bit because I'm going to sew right through it anyway. And don't want it really seeping through, so I'm just going to put a small amount. Okay, just enough to kind of hold it on. All right, then I'm going to sew right through that, and then on the back when we're done, I'm going to put a piece of trim back there. So what I'm going to do now, and I am going to go ahead and stitch this on camera because I have had people ask me about thread I use and whatnot. So I am using just cheap old upholstery thread that you can get at, you know, any department store that carries sewing goods. And what I usually do is I go 3 times the length, 1, 2, 3, and then I double it. I do double thickness. You don't have to, that might be overkill for you, but it's just what I do. Okay, and then I just have a little bit of beeswax here that my hubby had from his, I don't know, leather crafting days or something, and he gave it to me, and I just run my thread through it myself. And the upholstery thread is really, it's strong enough by itself that you don't really need the beeswax for that, but it helps with not getting tangled, and it also helps when you're tying your knots to finish off. Your knots seem to hold well because the beeswax is kind of sticks to each other, kind of sticky. Alright, see if I can get my needle threaded without wearing my glasses. There we go. Alright. Okay, now normally I would make a little template, a little guide. You know, I'd fold it in half, and then I'd mark where I want my holes to go and put it inside, and I'd use that for a guide. But I'm just sewing this one little signature into this cover. I am not going to mess with all that. I am just going to hold it where I want it, and I'm going to make sure I'm right side up because, you know, I would never sew one it upside down, right? Okay. I'm just going to eyeball where I want it. It's just a simple little booklet. There's one hole. There's 2. There's 3. That was the dog snoring. And then I like to do 5 holes, so there's number 4. And number 5. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in from the outside. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to put a piece of trim across this, so it's going to hide my knot anyway, so I'm not worried about my knot showing. And if I'm not worried about my knot showing back there, I might as well put it on the outside instead of on the inside. So just going to go through there and find my little hole. And what I could do at this point, sometimes it makes it easier if you paper clip your papers together, and I may just do that. because they wanted to slip on me a little bit there. Clip those. Okay. Find my big paper clip, and I'm sure some of you have seen me do this before, but if you haven't, this is kind of a little tip I have. So I'm going in my center hole, go through my center hole here, maybe. Things are always fiddly when you're on camera, right? Okay, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and hang on just a second, I forgot to show you. Take a paper clip or anything really, and I like to just tie it on one time because I want it back off of there, so I'm just doing it one time. And then when I'm sewing in my signature, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, aren't I? Sewing in my signature, I won't pull my threads through. See? I pull and it stops on the paper clip, so I don't have to worry. It's one less thing I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about it pulling through. Okay, and I can pull tight, and I don't have to worry about those ends of threads. The paper clip stops it. Okay, in through the top hole. And I'm pulling it tight, back through this hole, pulling tight, yeehaw, fling it off the table. Okay, now I'm going back in the center next to my threads. I'm not going through my threads. I don't want to go through them. And there we go. This is a little more fiddly than just doing a sewing in a hidden binding on a journal. Doing these envelopes. It's trial and error and patience. All right. Come on. It is going to give me fits while I'm on camera, isn't it? Let me try it from this direction. I'm trying to stay in frame, and it's making me do things at an odd angle. And there we go. There we go. Sorry. Had to go off frame for a minute there. All right. Okay, back through. Now I'm going down in this one. And again, it's so nice to not have to worry about accidentally pulling threads through. That paper clip here is just doing the job for me. I'm able to pull, 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 pull. And back through into the bottom. Okay. And now I'm going through this one. I like to do 5-hole because then my space between my holes is shorter and I don't have this big long section of string that, you know, can be loose. All right, pull that tight. Now I'm going to take my paper clip off, pull both of them nice and tight, and I am taking my needle and I'm running it behind this one here. I've got the loose one in my hand. I'm running it behind this one. Okay, and then I'm able to pull that tight, and it's pulling against this thread, so it keeps things nice and tight. And now that I have that nice and tight, I can go ahead and just tie it in a knot with the loose ends. Okay, all right. And then the beeswax there makes my thread just a little bit sticky and holds my knot nice and tight. Now, if you were putting that on that knot on the inside of your signature, I don't know that you'd want to put glue on it because it would show, but I am going to cover this up with some trim here in just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down just a little bit. Holds my knot nice and tight. Okay. And I'm a little bit crooked here, you know, because I didn't use a guide. I just poked it through, but that's okay. I'm covering it with trim right there anyway. And it's just one little signature. If it was a big journal with a, you know, a big spine, I'd be more worried about it. But I'm not. Okay, so there's our signature. Let me just light it, keep bumping it. There's my signature all sewn in. That looks nice, doesn't it? And then now, I'm just going to trim these guys up here. And I'm going to hang on to these little snippets of sari right there because I can use those as embellishments. Okay. All right. That looks nice. Now I'm going to go grab the trim that I want to use on the outside, and I'll be right back. Okay. So we're all sewn in. I'm going to close this up. I'm going to go ahead and close my closure. I'm going to do it nice and tight because I want this to lay flat. And then this is the trim I've chosen for the little spine here. And I'm just going to glue that on like so. Okay, that'll look cute, won't it? Alright, so I'm just going to measure it. Actually, I'm going to trim off this little piece that's kind of bent upwards. And eyeball it about right there. Okay. Get out my fabric glue. And you in no way have to use this type of glue. You use whatever glue you want to. Oops. You know what? I don't want that closed because... Uh-oh. Wait a minute. I didn't think about that. How do I want to do that? I didn't even think about that, having a flip out right there. I was just going to glue that down. Boy, I'd have been really upset when I go later to put that on, put the closure on there. This may be an interesting conundrum. Well, that's what we do. We figure things out together, right? Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm thinking about cutting that off and then changing it. I don't know why I thought I could just, you know, glue that on the spine like that. This one's a little different than I did this one. On this one over here, I sewed my signature into the top one, see? And I was able to put this on here. But on this one, I switched it. And instead of having my signature sewn in here, I did it down here. Just because I made that choice that I wanted to do that. But I did not think at the time that doing so, I wouldn't be able to cover my stitches there. Well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Okay, and not worry about that for right now because I have an idea to fix that. So see, this is crafting on a fly. You get to see what happens when I goober things up. So if you're crafting along with me, I do apologize if you've had to now cut your closure off. Sorry. Okay. Just going to put that on there like that. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put just a little spot of glue on this all the way down so that I can keep it down. Okay, move that out of the way so I don't accidentally glue it down like I almost did. It's only the third time I've done this, and I changed it every time I've done it. All three of these books are different in a way. I guess that's what I get for changing things up. Now I know. I think it's easier to put the journal part in the other flap. Okay. I'm going to let that dry really well before I go opening it. So I'm going to leave that. Let's see, that looks nice. Okay. Now I have to figure out how I want my closure to go back on. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this around. Okay. Wrap that around, and then I can get an idea of where I can put this. Okay. What I can do is I can glue something here to go over my ribbon to hold it down. So that might be a button, or ooh, that'd be a neat idea, wouldn't it? Or I could just sew. Yeah, there's a couple options you could do. So you could sew your ribbon right there, or you could sew it with a button, which is what I think I'm going to do. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That will fix our dilemma. Let me go find a small button, just a little small button, and I'll come right back. Okay, I have my button picked out. And I do apologize again for not seeing that ahead of time. You guys probably saw it ahead of time, but I didn't. But that's okay. Sometimes it's good to see how people work through a problem and find a solution. And if not, sorry. I'll take the thumbs down and move on. All right. So I went ahead and attached my ribbon there and wrap that around so I can see exactly where I want my button. And I'm just going to give it a little mark underneath there just so I don't lose my place where I want it at. Okay. And yep, that will work just fine. All right. And I am just going to sew that in there. And I may end up doing it off camera so I don't bore you to death. That looks pretty good. I think I will give it a tie off. Apologize if everybody's mad at me now for my goof up. But it's okay. Everything is salvageable, fixable. That's the good part about junk journaling. You know, you can just sew things on, or I'm just kind of giving this a little bit of tack down so that that's what I like about junk journaling. You can make mistakes, cover them up, or even let your mistakes show, and it just gives your project some personality. All right, trim my threads a little closer. Okay. All right. See, that's actually pretty cute. Yeah, that works out just fine. All right. So we have that. this opens up. Like I said, I'm going to put a pocket on mine, and I'm probably not even going to do that on camera because you guys know how to glue on a pocket. I'm just going to do a triangular pocket, and I think I'm going to line it with this same paper. You know, I'm going to cover it with that same paper right there. And then I've got my journal. I'm going to fray this out a little bit more so it's more frayed. So really the only thing that's left to do is to put journaling cards in. So I'm going to put a journaling card in that, journaling card in this. That paper pad came with some journaling cards. So I'm probably going to take one of these real pretty ones right here and put here on the front to embellish this. I need to put a journaling card in there. You guys know how to make journaling cards, so I'm not going to do that on camera. The only other thing I'm going to do to embellish this a little is I'm going to put on a book plate, looking for my little brads. I'm not going to poke them through. What I do is I put the brads on, bend them down, and then I kind of glue them down or put a little piece of tape, double-sided tape right there. So I just want them to cover my holes, but I don't want them poked through. And then I'm going to end up gluing my frame there. And that's it. So really, I think we're done with this little project. I'm going to do the rest of it off camera. So like I said, just going to put my book plate on. I'm going to add a pocket, and then I'm going to fill it up with tags, so, or journaling cards. So really, I think our little project is done. So if you haven't started yours yet, then maybe it's a do as I say and not as I do. So it worked out easier to put the journal part here on your front flap, because then you're able to just glue your trim down instead of doing it in here. But that is totally up to you. As you can see, it worked out just fine to do it this way. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed that little project. These make great gifts for birthdays and showers and whatnot, and great little Christmas gifts to give the neighbors or people at church. And they would also make very neat happy mail to send in the mail, and because they're flat, you probably ship them pretty cheaply. Okay, hope you enjoyed that project. I will speak to you all real soon in the next video. Take care, happy crafting, bye-bye.